Hey guys, so today we are going to be reviewing Pearl, and I have decided to embrace Mia Goth's look as a fellow natural brunette with blonde eyebrows and eyelashes. I really love the representation I'm getting in this movie, specifically in X whenever Mia Goth is in a movie, because I have very blonde eyebrows. Can you believe I still have product in my eyebrows right now? These aren't even my fully natural eyebrows, but this is my natural hair color. So it's a conundrum, to be honest, and kind of, I don't know. I just decided to embrace it, at least for today. Maybe it's a look. I don't know, maybe I'll just do the Mia Goth look and embrace my natural face a little bit more. Anyway, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be filming this review, especially coming off of filming my Barbarian review, which you guys know I absolutely love that movie. I will link my full review up here if you have not seen that yet. I'm actually seeing Barbarian again tonight because I am going to make Ryan watch it. Like, I think he's going to like it, so I'm going to make him watch it tonight. And honestly, the second half of 2022 is really delivering on the horror front. Like, the first half was a little bit lackluster, if I'm being honest. A lot of franchise stuff in the first half. Second half, I think, is where the genre is really going to shine. Now, in my Barbarian review, you might remember that I said it's my favorite movie of the year, and I don't think anything can top it, not even Pearl, which originally was my anticipated favorite movie of the year. After I saw the trailer for Pearl, I was like, that's gonna be my favorite movie of the year, hands down, because I love X, and Pearl, in my opinion, based on the trailer, looked better than X, and a little bit more about the character than like a traditional slasher, so I thought I would enjoy it more. So I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, did Pearl in fact top Barbarian? Which one is my favorite of the year? Trapped on her family's isolated farm, Pearl must tend to her ailing father under the bitter and overbearing watch of her devout mother. Lusting for a glamorous life like she's seen in the movies, Pearl finds her ambitions, temptations, and repressions all colliding in this origin story of X's iconic villain. Now, this is set in 1918 during World War I, and also at the time of the Spanish flu, which in my opinion are great background pieces to the setting of this story, and I love that they're just kind of subtle things about the history, and also it's very topical as far as a pandemic movie, because this is of course the first pandemic from 100 years ago, and you see people wearing masks and things and references to social distancing and whatnot. And of course this is the prequel to X, and directed by Ty West, who is slowly becoming one of my favorite horror directors of our time. He's done a lot of movies that not a lot of people have heard of that are really incredible, so I'm very, very impressed with Ty West as of right now. Now, they secretly filmed Pearl while filming X, and Pearl was actually greenlit by A24 before filming for X even took place. And that's why we got both movies in the same year. When I post that Pearl's coming out in September, a lot of people are like, didn't we just get X this year? Like, they're assuming it came out last year, and their whole sense of time is thrown off because we're getting a prequel in the same year as the original movie, which is just unheard of. And honestly, it's kind of a risk that they're taking by doing this, by not waiting a year to build the hype around it. Now, I think it'll still be successful. I think people are still going to be hyped for this movie. I mean, they are hyped for this movie. So I still think Pearl will do well in the box office despite the original movie coming out just kind of months ago. Also, Ty West and Mia Goth actually collaborated on the script during a 2-week required quarantine, so she is credited as a writer and a producer for this movie. First thing I want to say is you don't have to have necessarily watched X in order to enjoy Pearl. In fact, I think it might even be a fun watch to watch it in sequential order, watching Pearl first and then watching X, but I do think you would get a little bit more out of Pearl, especially with the ending, if you had seen X already. Because it's a prequel, it's not really necessary. It is the character development of Pearl herself versus X that is more of a slasher movie. It doesn't focus so much on Pearl, the character, which I just want to point out in case you're unfamiliar. Mia Goth plays both Pearl in this prequel. She also plays the lead in X, and also the old woman in X as well, who is elderly Pearl. So Mia Goth is just playing them all. I honestly love when movies do this, like in Suspiria, where they just subtly like have someone who's huge play someone else and you just don't know it, or you can't pinpoint it or, you know, recognize them in that role. I really like when movies take advantage of the talent and utilize them for multiple roles, as long as they're differentiated enough. So anyway, watch them together. If you haven't seen X, either watch Pearl first and then X, you know, make sure you see them both. I think you'd really enjoy that storyline because you get to understand Pearl a little bit more when you go into X, but you don't have to necessarily have seen it. So, what are my thoughts on Pearl? First of all, incredible. It was incredible. That is not really a surprise. I was not surprised that I loved this movie because I could tell based on the trailer, my hype was up. Again, like I said with Barbarian, this is a near perfect movie. I would hardly change anything, to be honest. There was one scene that I would cut out, but this video is spoiler free, so I will not be delving into that. But other than that, and the fact that that scene just kind of felt like a deleted scene that was thrown in and didn't really have like too much, I mean, there was a point to it, but anyway, doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into the scene anyway, so I don't want to be vague about it. Spoilers just aren't necessary in this video. However, I will get into my favorite part of the movie, which happens to have take place in the end, like my favorite scene, which isn't spoilery. It's not a, you know, huge part of the story or anything like that. It's just a little mention. Anyway, I saw this movie described online, specifically TikTok, as the female version of the Joker movie, which I am obsessed with Joker. I love that movie so, so much. And it is definitely the female Joker movie in all the best ways. I think many will relate to Pearl, which isn't necessarily a great thing. We don't want to, you know, really relate to a killer. Luckily, she's fictional, so that's okay. And, you know, sympathizing with the killer and everything like that. But I do think a lot of people, weird girls specifically, will see themselves a little bit in Pearl towards the end of the movie, and kind of sympathize with her character. And personally, I really loved Pearl's backstory. I think it is just... it's just perfection. Now, I absolutely loved the trailer for Pearl, and I had only seen the whole thing because, as you know, if you watched X, there's something in my eye. If you watched X, they played Pearl, the trailer, at the very end at the post-credit scene. And just so you know, there is a post-credit scene for Pearl, at the end of Pearl, that is the teaser for Maxine. Now, the teaser has been around online, so you don't necessarily have to stick around for it. You could see the teaser online. So Maxine will actually be the sequel to X. So we're gonna have Pearl, X, and then Maxine, which will take place, I think, in 1985, which is just, you know, a handful of years after the events of X. But I will say, as much as I love the trailer and it really sold me on it, I do wish there was a little bit more in the movie that surprised me. I think that they did great marketing with the trailer. It really, you know, obviously got me excited. However, what you see in the trailer is what you get in the movie. You know, there's nothing really surprising in the movie, and I wish they left out a couple things in the trailer so it would have been more of a surprise in the movie. There's definitely, obviously, not everything is shown in the trailer. Not every horror scene or like every scene, you know, is not in the trailer, but I do think that maybe they show a little bit too much and nothing really like caught me off guard in the movie or like was surprising in any way. That may not have been their goal anyway. I think it's just comparing it to Barbarian, which is like the most shocking experience in a theater after seeing the trailer and having the trailer just look like one thing and then the movie being completely just more than that. I think I was expecting a little bit of that in Pearl, which isn't fair, obviously, to put that expectation on Pearl, but I wanted a little bit more in the movie, or a little bit less in the trailer. One of those. So let's talk about the movie itself, the technicalities, if you will. So firstly, the stylistic choices in this movie were iconic. So the movie takes place in 1918, obviously, and the cinematography, the edits, the score, everything, even the text, really reflects the era that this movie takes place in and really immerses you in that time period, especially for like early 20th century cinema. I loved the transitions that we got. They're very classic and great homages to old movies. I did see some criticism saying that the beginning of the movie runs a little bit slower and then really picks up in the middle and towards the end. And I do want to point out that this movie is completely different from X. X, so do not expect the same experience. In pretty much every way, it's different from X, which in my opinion is a good thing. They pair together so well because of the character development and the backstory that we're getting for Pearl. They really work well together, but they are completely different movies. Pearl, of course, has the same farm setting, so there is that continuation, but Pearl is much more colorful. It is slower pacing, less horror and gore, and Pearl is really more character driven than X was. X is kind of more your traditional slasher. Pearl, we're getting the character. Like, it is all about Pearl. And personally, I loved that. One thing that was a little bit surprising is the lack of horror. One part of this was really scary. Never was I like feeling suspense in moments. There's tension, but it wasn't a horror necessarily, like horror elements necessarily. A lot of the gore is actually not visible, like it's not as in your face as X was, so they were kind of more reserved when it came to that. Besides some scenes, there's blood, there's gore, but a lot less than I thought was going to be in it, to be honest. Now, like I said, people said the beginning was the slowest part of the movie. I actually found the ending to be kind of the slowest, but not in a bad way. I actually really enjoyed the ending of this movie. I found that to be the most interesting part and the time where I was the most engaged. I mean, the beginning was slower for sure. Obviously, we're setting up the story. We're getting to know Pearl a little bit more. The cinematography was stunning. This movie is visually so gorgeous. I mean, Ty West's use of color in this is stunning. It is so gorgeous. The night shots were hands down some of my favorite visual scenes, like it was just beautiful. Also, I want to point out, because it's something that matters to me, and some of you probably feel the same way, there's less sexuality in this, right? So we get a lot less of those scenes. Really, there's only one scene with any nudity, and then only one other like sexuality scene, and they're not too much. Like, obviously X is focused on porn stars and things, so there's gonna be those scenes, but this has a lot less sexuality, which I actually was surprised by. Same with the horror. I really thought those two things, the horror and the sexuality, would be a lot more prevalent in this movie. That was just my personal interpretation of the trailer. But clearly I was wrong, so there's not much in there. Now, obviously, we have to talk about Mia Goth for a second. She carried this movie. I mean, the side characters and the side actors were actually really great in this as well, but obviously Mia Goth is the star of this movie. So the scene in the end that was my absolute favorite is Mia Goth, or Pearl, has a monologue. And this is done in one take, and it has to run at least over 5 minutes. I don't know, I wasn't timing it, but it was incredible. I got chills so many times. I absolutely am obsessed with that entire monologue. Like, people memorize the "I am your mother" speech from Hereditary. I think this Pearl monologue is like my favorite. That's the one that I'll memorize because I'm gonna watch it over and over and over again. Now, Mia Goth was actually instructed to watch Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and The Wizard of Oz to prepare for this movie, and Baby Jane is one of my favorite older movies. I rarely talk about older movies on this channel, as you know, they're not my favorite, but Baby Jane is an incredible movie, and so if you like that movie, it has similar like essence in it. You could tell the inspiration was there. Anyway, but with the monologue, I found myself relating to her story a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yay, Pearl, kill everyone. But I do relate to her story a little bit. Like I said, at least she's fictional, you know? At least it's not like a real serial killer. Honestly, Pearl is one of my favorite horror characters that we have ever gotten. I was gonna say that we've gotten lately, ever. Probably one of my favorite horror characters ever to be written. She is one of the most creative, original horror villains that still has an incredible backstory. I'm obsessed with Pearl, and I really want to be her for Halloween, but I will be 6 months pregnant, so that might be a little bit strange of a costume. Anyway, just like Barbarian, I give Pearl 5 out of 5. I know. I just can't really fault it. I didn't even notice there wasn't a lot of horror until my partner pointed it out, so take that with a grain of salt, you know? It didn't bother me that there wasn't a ton of horror or a ton of gore, and that it was mostly character driven because I loved the characters. This could have been a drama movie and I'd be like, I love it. I just love everything about this movie. Like, it's gonna make for an incredible rewatch, in my opinion. I love it. And I just feel so spoiled. The fact that I got to see 2 new original horror movies that I rate 5 out of 5 within 10 days of each other. 10 days. I'm speechless, honestly. So the big question is, what's my favorite of the year? What's my favorite? Well, I do like Pearl more than X, I think. I really like the story in Pearl a lot. Obviously, if you're more drawn to traditional slashers, you'd probably like X more than Pearl, but there's something about Pearl. So yeah, I like Pearl more than X. I think I like Pearl more than Barbarian, but that's really hard to say because they're just so different. Like, I can't really compare them. But if I had to pick a favorite of the entire year, it'd be a safe bet to say Pearl. Like, either one would be safe, honestly, Barbarian or Pearl. Both are incredible movies. But I think I'd say Pearl. But it really depends on my mood, you know? Like, I can't wait to rewatch all of, Pearl and Barbarian over and over and over again. Can't wait to own them, so I could just see them all the time. But yeah, it really depends on my mood, which one's better. But for now, I'm gonna say Pearl. If you've seen Pearl, I really want to hear your thoughts. I was surprised by a lot of people saying they didn't like Barbarian, which is fair. Movies aren't meant for everyone. Not every movie's for everyone. So I really want to hear your thoughts on Pearl, though, and if you prefer X or Pearl, or what did you think about the tone shift or the differences, or are you excited for Pearl? Are you excited for Maxine? I'm really excited, honestly. It takes place in LA. I think it's going to be really fun. Anyway, that is my Pearl review. Go watch it. 5 out of 5. Hands down. So incredible. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.